We're not going to be doing a demonstration of the induction itself, because that's not this particular thing. You might as well just go straight into hypnosis anywhere you want to, simply closing your eyes. And with your eyes closed, you can allow yourself to just drift down whatever pace is right for you and to what level's right for you. And as you do, we'll get straight on. And what I want you to do is to start to pay attention to the sensations in your left hand. And when you start to think about it, there are lots of different sensations, lots of things that you could be aware of. So for instance, you could be aware of the feeling of contact, where certain parts of the hand are actually touching the material of your jeans. And you might be able to sense the texture of that material. You can be aware of the position of each finger in relation to each of the other fingers and the thumb. If there are any movements, whether they were deliberate movements or whether they're little spontaneous movements like a twitch or a jump, you'd probably feel those things going on. You could be aware of the temperature of the hand. It might be slightly warmer underneath and slightly cooler on the back. You check it out. So there's quite a few different things you could be aware of. So what I want you to do is to begin to focus your awareness more and more closely on just the first finger of that hand, the index finger, the one next to the thumb. And whilst paying close attention to all the various sensations in that one finger, what I'd like to do, quite consciously and quite deliberately and very slowly, is just to begin lifting that one finger little by little into the air, whilst paying attention to all the sensations involved. Feelings in the muscles, the joints, the tendons, all the sensations involved in slowly and deliberately lifting that finger little by little higher and higher. So for the viewers, while Gary's doing this, what we're doing is what's called a muscle rehearsal. The muscles of Gary's hands are actually learning what those movements feel like. What does it feel like for a finger to lift? So Gary's lifting that finger quite deliberately, consciously, deliberately, but it probably feels different to him than it would do if he was just lifting that finger in an everyday, usual state. How does it feel as that finger's lifting?
A bit strained.
Mm-hmm. And it's now gone as far as it can go, unless of course the rest of the hand was to follow it, but for the moment that doesn't have to happen. So still paying attention now to all the sensations in and around that finger. I'd like you to begin, still quite deliberately, just lowering the finger back down and seeing how that feels, and in particular looking out for the feeling of contact when that finger touches back down and comes completely to rest. And just being aware that you're doing all of that quite consciously, quite deliberately, just following a very simple set of directions. But now, I'd like you to make no effort whatsoever, but instead just to use your imagination and to discover what happens. As you now begin to imagine that there is a balloon being tied to the end of that finger, perhaps by a piece of string, perhaps by a ribbon. And that balloon is now being filled with a very light gas. It's probably helium. And you might be able to imagine that somewhere inside the balloon there's a special valve that allows that gas to fill the balloon up more and more. So all the time that balloon's just getting gradually bigger and bigger and lighter and lighter. And as that balloon gets bigger and bigger and lighter, quite naturally it wants to lift higher and higher into the air. But first of all it just has to overcome the weight of that finger. And fortunately that finger isn't all that heavy. One finger doesn't weigh very much at all. And all the time the balloon just continues getting bigger and bigger and lighter and lighter. So it's rather easy for the balloon to overcome the weight of the finger and to lift that finger just as far as it will go by itself. And then there comes a little pause, because before the balloon can lift any higher, it would have to not only overcome the weight of the finger, it would have to overcome the weight of the hand. And of course, we both know a hand weighs a bit more than a finger. But it's not that heavy. And all the time the balloon just continues getting bigger and bigger and lighter. So gradually the balloon does begin to overcome the weight of the hand and then the forearm, and it continues lifting little by little higher and higher into the air without any effort from you. So this time you're not making the hand lift, but you're not preventing it from lifting, you're allowing it to happen. You're allowing your imagination to do all the work for you. It's so much easier that way. So that balloon can continue just lifting that hand, keeping it supported up there, until you reach a point in hypnosis where your mind is ready and able to respond as fully as possible today. Now, consciously, there's no particular way of knowing when you've reached that point in hypnosis. So there's no point in trying to work it out or even to guess. But when you do reach a point in hypnosis where your mind is ready and able to respond as fully as possible today, then there is an automatic valve in that balloon which will open. Only when you reach that point where your mind is ready and able to respond as fully as possible today, the valve in the balloon automatically opens, allowing the gas to escape. You might even hear the hissing sound. And the balloon gets smaller and smaller again, and it just drifts gently all the way back down again to land wherever it happens to land. Letting me know, but more importantly, letting you know consciously that you've reached that point where your mind is ready and able to respond as fully as possible. So feeling that hand and then the finger touching back down, you can feel really good about that. That's right. And feeling good about that, you could relax a little bit more. It's really good. So if this was a session with a first-time client, we would probably carry on to do some work, some therapeutic work. And as this is just a demonstration of this technique, we're just going to leave it there, and whenever you're ready, you can begin to find yourself coming to the point for opening your eyes, so that when you do, you're feeling refreshed, feeling alert, feeling on top of the world mentally and physically, and remembering the whole experience so we can talk about it afterwards. That's right, just take your own time. Excellent.